So here, everybody, welcome to eChannel News. We've got Nathan Wenzler. He's the field CISO for Optiv, and we'll talk a bit about their journey and what they're doing out there in the world of cybersecurity. Nathan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, Julian. How are you doing today?
Very, very good. All right, so let's double click on this. So give us a bit of a background. And Optiv is a kind of a cybersecurity consultancy firm, and you do quite a bit of stuff, but instead of me defining it for you, what does Optiv do?
Optiv we're the largest cybersecurity focused consultancy firm around. We've been in the industry almost 20 years in total. And primarily we focus on providing consulting and advisory services for everything from pen testing and security assessments, compliance to executive level advisory consulting, temporary CISO work, that sort of thing. And everything in between. So we've been at the security challenge for a very, very long time and have a lot of experience in um, just about every field out there that is part of a security program.
Well, congratulations on keeping the world safe because in my world, without security, the world kind of collapses. So this is a vital part of our world these days. And of course, Nathan, with AI and everyone going a little bit bonkers and crazy with AI, that's even making things more complicated on one end, because apparently the bad actors are pretty good at using it. But on the other hand, it seems like people are using and leveraging AI to kind of push back a bit. Just before we get started here, what's your feeling and view of how AI is playing a good, bad, and ugly experience in the world of cyber?
Well, I think you've described it pretty well. And I think one of the things that we need to make clear about it is that this is not a new dynamic, right?
Mm.
There have been new technologies and tools that have come out over the years. And historically, attackers tend to uh, take on those new tools and adopt them faster than the defenders do. They find ways to leverage those new technologies and those new tools to augment whatever cyber attack that they're working on in the moment. And then we as an industry tend to play catch up and we start to figure out ways that we can leverage those technologies better to defend against what we're dealing with. We could trace this all the way back to just networking and fundamental basics of email were this way in the early days. But uh, that dynamic holds true here for today for AI. We see that when things like ChatGPT first hit kind of mainstream a few years ago and started getting down to the consumer level, attackers started to leverage it in ways that we kind of expected, right? They were uh, fixing all their grammar and spelling errors in their phishing emails, and they were building more compelling text messages to try to spearfish people and otherwise compromise folks. And we still see that kind of thing happening today. We're continuing to see the cyber criminal groups start to evolve in how they leverage AI. But to your point, we've had a couple of years. The defenders, those of us trying to do the right thing on this side of things, we are starting to leverage AI in a lot of different ways to help protect our environments and our end users. I think one of the key ways that it's being leveraged here is we're starting to help use AI to help us make decisions on risk faster. And one of the big advantages cyber attackers have had for a lot of years is that they've had time on their side. You could find a wealth of statistics. I'm not going to quote a whole bunch of them at you. There's no need, but once an attacker breaches an organization, they can be there for hundreds of days before they're even detected. Now we're starting to get to the point where AI tools can help us identify those anomalies of a break-in faster. They can help us determine the risk of a particular breach or how bad is it, have they reached a really critical system. That helps us make decisions faster so that we can isolate and protect our networks and get the cyber attacker out so that we can shore up the defenses. And the more that we can narrow the time that we detect and deal with the problem, the better it is for everybody involved because it gives the attacker less time to steal data, steal intellectual property, whatever the case may be. So I think speed has become the biggest advantage from a defender's perspective, that we can pour through mountains of data in a way that we never were able to do before. And now we can surface the real serious problems and make good decisions about what to do about it. And this starts to move us from a reactive place into more of a proactive place. Right? We can
Right.
find those problems faster. And that's really the end game for what you want to do in security.
100%. So Nathan, when I look at the CISOs, right, I know it's like one of the hardest jobs on planet Earth. It's like I don't know what it is, but it's like when I speak to CISOs, like it's a 24/7 gig, and it could happen at Friday at 6 o'clock. It could happen during the game with your kids. I mean, it's happening like all the time. How do you cope with it, man, as a CISO?
Uh, well, as someone who has been in that role in the past, I'm not sure. I don't know if I have a good answer for how you cope with that, to be honest. In truth, it is kind of part and parcel of the game.
Mm,
And attackers have gotten very smart about things. I mean, they know when all the major sporting events are taking place. They know when
yes.
all of our holidays are. They
Yeah.
know when they know what tax day is. They know all the big days that we are likely to be occupied with other things. And we as kind of as a society, not just CISOs, but
Yeah. In general.
as a CISO, we have to deal with it. Uh, so you learn to predict that Super Bowl Sunday is going to be a day where you're probably going to
Yeah.
see more attacks. Christmas Day is probably going to be a day that you're
Yeah.
going to see that.
At dinner
Uh,
time. Yeah.
yeah. So you adjust a little bit and just kind of recognize that that is the nature of how these criminal actor groups work. Um, and I would say, I mean, if we wanted to spin off into this conversation, I mean, for CISOs, especially as the senior leadership of a security program, this is one of the critical parts of work building a strong team culture and really having a solid, high performing team that you are encouraging and supporting becomes critical because you're going to have to ask somebody to put in the long hours. You're
Mm,
going to have somebody work on weekends or on that holiday. And if you are not managing the people side of your program and really making sure that you've
mm.
got well-trained staff, they high morale, they believe in the mission, uh, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot harder to solve that problem when it happens because it will happen.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but it is unfortunately just part of the nature of the business.
It's tough, man. It takes a lot of effort to maintain that superpower. But let's just double click on cyber insurance for a second, then we can get into this AI world a little bit deeper. So, I mean, obviously, cyber insurance is one of those things that insurance companies are slowly getting up to speed. They're kind of understanding how to spell cyber a little bit better. They're kind of getting. It's nothing like when you lose money, right, Nathan? To wake up the giant, the sleeping giant. What's your take in the cyber insurance world?
Well, the cyber insurance world's at kind of an interesting crossroads right now. And you're absolutely right, by the way. And I'm so glad you point this out because I was earlier life of mine about 7 or 8 years ago. A company I was working with, we were talking with some major insurance companies about cyber insurance, and they literally said to us, "We have no idea.
Well,
We have no actuary
exactly.
tables. We have no idea how to build premiums for this. We don't even know what to do." Uh, that those days are gone. They know what to do now. They absolutely have figured that out.
Yeah.
Uh, but we're at an interesting crossroads because in a lot of ways, there's a lot more competition for cyber insurance policies. So when you see competition, policy rates start to come down. There's a little bit more accessibility for smaller organizations to get on board with the cyber insurance program. But they've also seen that the payouts when a breach happens have been massive
Mm,
and do not line up with the premiums that they have been charging for these policies. So while we sort of expected with more competition, we'd see policies become more reasonable and start to come down in price. Uh, what we're actually seeing is a trend
not really.
upward
Yeah.
and more requirements. I think the insurance companies are finally realizing that it isn't enough to say, well, do you have a program? Yes, no.
Mm,
Now they're saying, no, we want it to be a, ISO 27001 program or a NIST cybersecurity framework program, and it has to be this program, and we want it to be this way. Um, they've also spent a lot of time and money acquiring services firms,
mm,
consulting services firms, to go out and attest their clients' programs to see that if they actually truly do meet the requirements that the customer is saying that they're doing. So they're getting much more serious about actually ensuring that they're meeting the requirements of the policy before they pay anything out, and they are increasing the requirements. So for a lot of organizations, the same question still is posed as it was 5 or 10 years ago, which is it worth it? Because the premiums are going up, and I'm going to have to spend a lot of time and money to bolster my program, which, let's be fair, they should be doing anyway,
Yeah.
right?
They
But if you're
either
in the
get
moment, you only
forced
have
to
so much
do it
budget.
or they're going to do it. Pay me now or pay me a lot more later type thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have if you don't have the budget,
Yeah.
it's a hard decision sometimes. So uh, yeah, it's a tough spot right now for a lot of CISOs and organizations that they're seeing their premiums double and triple,
Mm.
and being required to implement new tools and new processes and adhere to more stringent compliance requirements. Um, a lot of folks that I advise, this is a conversation we have quite often. Is it worth it? Do we
Mm.
just put a chunk of money aside and hope,
Mm.
or do we invest the money into our program and try to meet the insurance company's requirements and re-up our policy? It's a real challenge that a lot of organizations are facing, and I don't think there's a single answer. I wish I could give you the magic
Yeah.
answer of how to solve that, but this is where we're at right now. And I think, the hope here is in another couple of years, everything starts to sort of mellow back out a little bit as more and more programs reach a higher level of maturity, as we're seeing better compliance, that the premiums will start to taper off a little bit, and the competitive part of the industry will start to drive the prices back down, so that it isn't such a massive decision for a lot of organizations to have to make.
Yeah, but unless the payouts become less, premiums gonna go up, right? And it's like almost we're in the pre-existing conditions phase of medical health insurance. Yeah, you're covered. I'll take your money, but if you have a problem, I'm gonna look at the fine print, and maybe you're not gonna be covered, type thing, right?
That's a fantastic analogy. Yes, that's exactly where we're at with it.
Sad but true. So let's go a little bit deeper in the AI world. Of course, it's the buzzword forever now, and the challenge for CISOs, I'm assuming you as well, is that as your organizations use and companies use more AI and particularly shadow AI and all the other things that goes around it and privacy issues and whatever, it's almost like you want to go scream at people for what they do, right? So first, what are you seeing, and how are you approaching it to kind of put this genie? I don't want to say back in the bottle because it's impossible, but how are you playing? How are you doing it?
Uh, I
That's
don't
a
know if we
tough
have time.
question.
Do we have time for that answer?
I
We have
know,
to.
I know it bothers me too, my friend. It's like how do we? It seems like it's a one part education, one part articulation to be able to explain this to people in a way that they can understand.
Yeah.
And the company needs to have the governance and all these things. But in general, what's your general thoughts?
Well, it, the problem is really massive. I mean, let's be very, very clear about that. This is
Clear.
not a simple problem, and I think one of the reasons that often get overlooked about why it's not a simple problem is simply just because of adoption rate. I would argue that AI and ChatGPT really led the way at a
Mm.
consumer level, but AI is the first security challenge or technology with massive security challenges that has just reached mainstream adoption. I mean, yes, today we all use cloud, but we were, consumer level folks weren't using cloud when it first came out. All these kind of previous things that we looked at and said, oh, whoa, how do I secure the cloud? How am I going to do that? Well, we had time. Organizations had time to sort of figure it out before it reached down to our grandparents, our kids, and all of that.
Mm.
AI did not do that. AI exploded so fast, and everybody was using it everywhere. And all of a sudden, organizations went, "Wait, what? Everyone in my organization is already using this tool that I didn't even pay attention to." That is a big problem, and I think a lot of the challenge that we're having right now, even now, is organizations are scrambling for an answer. They know the problem is bad. They know that their data is being copied and pasted into these tools by their end users and walking out the door. they know that very private information is being submitted into these tools. Uh, um, that's a big problem when you're trying to control and protect intellectual property or healthcare information, financial data, whatever it is. And so we've been in this panic mode for a couple of years now, trying to solve the problem. At the end of the day, AI really is an application. So a lot of the same kind of strategies we've used to protect our organization still are at play. You still have to use good access control. You still need to lock down data sets. You still need to control access to who can use the application at all. I think we were behind the curve on doing that, and everybody panicked before they sat down and really thought about how do we want to get our arms around this problem. I think we're getting better about it right now, but we're already 2+ years in. The data is already walking out the door.
Yeah,
It's obviously a really big challenge, but I am starting to see a lot more organizations who are putting in AI governance boards. They're trying to, review more stringently which models are allowed to be used in their environment, which tools they allow, who really needs them. There's a lot of questions about which of my users actually need AI or not. Uh, Training. I actually just got done doing a training session for one of our clients here recently about to the end users about good AI use practices and when to use it, when not to use it, all of that kind of thing. But uh, it's a really really hard problem, and if you're in the security side of it, especially if you're speaking to the business leaders who are giving you pressure from above to say, listen, our competitors are all using AI to get ahead of us.
exactly.
So you got to let us do it. Everybody, we got to do it.
Yeah,
It is, like I said, I think maybe this is the first legitimate technology that is driving security to have to make some hard choices. Where in the past, we could build our frameworks and
we
kind of
had
implement
time.
our controls, and,
Yeah.
and it'd be okay. This one's a
Also,
little bit of
first
a different animal.
technology that the bad actors are going, whoa, I mean I can write better without actually being able to write, and that's just like one tiny example. But it seems like there's cyber attacks as a service type thing, and it's sort of opening the door to a whole whackload of I don't want to say lesser capable hackers. So the
Sure.
really great actors are enabling the other wannabe actors, and of course when you sprinkle in the state actors in there, that's helping them to create more chaos. Boy, there's going to be a lot of work for CISOs in the future, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is. And it's only going to get worse. I think one of the factors that another factor I should say gets overlooked,
Mm,
all the data breaches we've seen in the last, let's just say decade.
yeah,
Well, that data has all gone somewhere.
yeah,
Criminal actors have been compiling data sets for years. They buy and trade and sell with each other those data sets, and they compile bigger and bigger data sets. So now, when you have a tool like AI, which is designed to help you find patterns in data, well, guess what? As a criminal, I have this massive data set
beautiful.
on
Yeah,
every citizen in the United States or every citizen in Japan or whatever country I want to target. I can build profiles. I can do spear phishing targeted attacks now on individuals in a way that I couldn't have done before AI helped me as a criminal. Um, it's the same kind of script kiddie problem, right? When
mm,
we had these cyber criminal tools as a service.
mm,
I'll write you the tool. You just plug in the IP addresses you want. I don't have to have any expertise. I can do that. It's that, but at an order of magnitude greater. These kinds of actors have just been so fully empowered between the data they've already collected and these new AI tools. I mean, vigilance is the key now. We all have to be so hyper aware of what's going
yeah.
on, the emails
Definitely
we're getting, texts.
we haven't crossed that finish line for sure, and I kind of worry sometimes that we're just getting started. I feel we've covered a lot, and we're sort of like catching up a little bit. But I just feel like I don't know what else is coming around the corner and how else. Yeah, I mean, I've actually, and you've obviously seen it as well, where you've got these the recon agents, that just goes out there and gather information, and then it comes back and drops the information into the lap of the hacker. Then they can go to the next level and so on. So there's kind of like, I don't want to say hacking automation, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, man, I don't even need to physically be there. I could be like on the beach while my my
Yeah.
agents are hacking.
Well, I mean, this is again, this is kind of the cyber criminal manifesto, right? I mean,
Yeah,
let's all step back for a second.
yeah,
Every technology you've ever used yourself
yeah.
that has made your life easier. Email. Email's great. I can send you a big long message. I can send files. I can do all this really nice, useful, productive stuff. Well, well, yeah, so can the attackers. Now they
Yeah.
have a tool for automation, right? So everything we've ever created to help help our end users or help our organizations, they're end users and they are organizations too. It helps them. So
It's like we have a
um,
parallel world here, Nathan, you know? And I'm not quite sure what it is. I feel matrixy this today, but it feels like it's a parallel world. So let's talk about the evolution. I mean, you're in the middle of this craziness, right? Um, what does the people like you, the defenders, right? How did do they need to evolve their game to kind of like dampen down? I don't want to say remove, but dampen down the attacks and breaches.
for me, prioritization is the key. I
Okay.
think in the past, we have often tried to tackle the security problem as a uh, something that we can finish or achieve.
Yeah.
And I say that with an asterisk on it because I mean any CISO worth their salt will tell you that security you never win security. But we would look at most security problems and try to get as close to zero as we possibly could. If I have a bunch of uh, vulnerabilities in my environment that need to be patched, well, I'm going to try to patch everything. I know I won't, but I'm going to try. And we've been aiming towards zero for a long time. And I think the reality is that speed is now the more important factor. We
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to prioritize and say, listen, not only can I not boil the ocean, I probably can't even boil this cup of water.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to figure out the teaspoon of water that I actually can solve right this second that is putting me most at risk. And so it's a tricky problem because the industry has been built around risk management and identification of risk and mitigation of risk and all these things, but it was always in that kind of big picture complete view. And where I think we need to be getting to now is just you need to acknowledge you cannot fix everything. You're not going to be able to plug every hole in the dam, but you need to plug the right holes. You need to get the ones that are most critical, the ones that are going to lead to a massive breach. And that's, I think, again, where I mean, we talk about AI. I mean, this is one of those places where AI can help us if the models get better and trained on the right kind of data to be able to say, yeah, you've got 10,000 problems you need to deal with. Here are two. These two you can do within 5 minutes, and these are the biggest problems in your environment. If we can get to that kind of point, we're way further down the road than we are today. And acknowledging you're probably never going to get to zero.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's realistic anymore, to be honest. We have to just make sure that we're closing the biggest problems that we can so that the criminal
So
actor on the beach who's just automated their whole hacking effort,
at least we can keep
um,
them out.
we're going to be able to keep them out. Yeah.
you know, I've always struggled with speaking to so many cybersecurity folks. How do I put it in the best analogy? And I know the house analogy was really cool for a while with all the windows and things like this. And I boil it down these days to like the just a human health, right? You do your checkups, and if you follow the right things and eat well and do whatever, then you should be okay. But then if you have an appendix or whatever, you got to fix that now, right? And you never know what's going to hit you. You walk out there today and you can be blindsided because you didn't expect anything, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like our health of our businesses or our cybersecurity health is very similar to the way our human health is. It's like you just don't know what could happen. You could be healthy forever, and then boom, something else goes crazy.
Yeah.
What's the
And I think
best
it's
analogy
important.
for you?
I like the house analogy still myself.
Yeah, it's really
But
good.
the health one is really good too. I mean, I've used that on a couple of talks. I think one of the things that the CISOs out there who may be listening, I think the key that you've got to remember is your business leaders don't understand this,
Mm.
right? I mean, when I go and use the house analogy, it's easy to walk into a boardroom and say, "Listen, I need to close the doors and lock the windows," and everyone
Yeah,
goes, "Yeah,
true.
that's obvious. Don't
Yeah,
want somebody to do that."
yeah,
But when a breach happens, say through the tiny vent pipe through your roof, well, yeah, that wasn't likely to happen, and that takes some more sophistication to figure out how to break into a house that way. But it can happen. Does the board understand that the odds of that are very low? Does the board
no,
understand that, you were actually making the right decisions about to close the doors and the windows, rather than trying to cover that tiny little vent pipe on the,
yeah,
poking out of the roof?
yeah,
No, all they care about is we've been breached and we're losing money
yeah,
and you didn't do your job. So,
yeah.
for a lot of leaders, this is a really important thing, not just to understand for yourself and your security program and how to manage it, but it's something you've got to educate your board about so they understand that you are prioritizing correctly in alignment with the business, that you are actually protecting the organization. And when that fluke thing happens, I mean, I don't know a CEO that's ever looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, no, okay, it's okay. I get it. Those things happen." But you kind of want to get them closer to that point, right? To understand that
It's a
we
different
still have to be,
language.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
it
almost like
absolutely is.
speaking a different language. And when you say
Completely.
Santa Claus can come down a chimney, they go, "Yeah, that's impossible." But it's not really Santa Claus. It's a metaphor.
Yeah.
But yeah, the hackers can come through any opening, right?
Yep.
Nathan, what a pleasure, man. You get the last word. What do you want everyone to know about your organization, Optiv, and what's your last word? You get the last word.
Well, I think the key, again, for a lot of folks is just to remember that there's no single answer. We're all different businesses, different organizations. We all have different challenges, different things we're trying to protect. Um, and so I know we all go through every bit of reading material we possibly can to try to find the one way to do this, but there really isn't.
Mm,
And so get aligned with your business, understand what the business is trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do. Make sure your security program is aligned to that, because if you're not doing things to protect the business, you're wasting your time and money. And frankly, get help. There's a lot of great experts out there. There are people who can help train your staff. There's great resources on the web that you can get if you're not familiar with the new technologies. And is agentic AI just confusing you? Well, there's great resources to learn about these things, but don't feel like you're doing this alone, right?
mm.
Go get help. Go find the people that can help you with these kinds of things, because the better you understand how to take security and align it to the business, uh, the better off everyone in your organization is going to be in the long run, and that's where we need to be.
Right on. Hey, look, no one can do this alone, and this is one of those things I believe you can't fake it till you make it. So I would suggest people reach out to people like the Optiv folks and figure out how to navigate this thing, because you might think you know, and that's what actually the hackers are counting on, that you think you know, and then when you think you know, you get comfortable, and when you get comfortable, then you go, "Oops, I did not know." So. What's the website address, Nathan, for them to learn more about your company?
Sure. Come right over to www.optiv.com.
There you go. Nathan, it's been a pleasure. Keep up the great work, my friend. It's great. We sleep better knowing that people like you are out there pushing back on the bad guys. Take care.
Out. Take care, Julian. Thanks so much.